Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we will be taking a closer look at a Python script that interacts with an API using the request library. Let's jump right into the code. At the top, we have our import statement, bringing in the necessary module. The request library is a popular Python module for making HTTP requests to interact with web services. Next, we define the URL we want to make a request to. Here we are using the Quandl API to retrieve the data for the wiki FB dataset in JSON format. Quandl provides financial and economic data that can be accessed through their API. Moving on, we set the headers for our request. These headers are necessary for authenticating our request. We include the Rapid API key and host information which Quandl requires for access to their API. Now, we make the actual request using the request.request method. We specify the HTTP method as get, indicating that we want to retrieve the data from the API. The request.request method sends the request to the provided URL with the given headers and the responses stored in the response variable. To examine the response, we print its content using response.text. Here we have text. This displays the raw response text which contains the data we requested. We can access some additional information about the response. Let's start with the status code. The status code is showing that everything is absolutely fine. The status code attribute gives us the HTTP status code of the response. This can help us determine if the request was successful or if there were any errors. 200 means that the request was successful. We can also access the headers of the response. Here we have the headers. This returns a dictionary containing the headers sent by the server. Headers can provide useful information such as the content type and the encoding. The encoding attribute tells us the character encoding of the response content. Speaking of encoding, we can check the encoding used in the response. Now let's take a closer look at the response content itself. We will print the first 996 characters. You can print more or even less of that. This code snippet allows us to examine a portion of the response content which can help us understand its structure and format. If the response is in JSON format, we can convert it to a Python dictionary using the response.json method. Here we obtain a dictionary representation of the JSON data returned by the API. This makes it easier to work and extract specific pieces of information. For example, if the JSON data contains a nested structure, like in this case, we can access a specific values. Let's extract the column names from the response. Here we have the column names such as date, open, high, low, close, volume, X dividend, split ratio, etc. By using the response.json dataset data, column names, code snippet, we can access the list of the column names present in the dataset. Here we have the list. This information is helpful for understanding the structure and meaning of the data. Now let's move on to the next part of the code where we create a pandas data frame to organize and analyze the data. The pd.dataframe function from the pandas library is used to create a dataframe object. We pass in the data from the response which we access using response.json dataset data. This data represents the actual values of the dataset. At this point, we have a data frame that we can work with, perform calculations on, or visualize. If you want to see the data frame in its entirety, you can simply print it. Here we have the data frame. Printing the data frame displays all the rows and the columns, allowing you to see the complete data set. Now, this concludes the explanation of the code provided. It demonstrates how to make a GET request to an API using the request library, handle the response, extract the specific information, and create a data frame for further analysis. Remember, APIs are incredibly powerful tools for accessing various data sources programmatically, and libraries like Request and Pandas make it easier to work with that data in Python. I hope this explanation helps you to understand the code better and how it interacts with the Quandl API. If you have any further questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. Thank you for watching today's video.
If you like this video, give thumbs up and subscribe if you are new on this channel.